Well, we are delighted to see you all here this evening. We know there are quite a few of our regulars who are not able to be here tonight, but are anxiously looking forward to the recording of tonight's program. And that includes many of the Westminster members who have volunteered for the Code Orange program, about which we'll hear this evening. So I'm going to turn the program over to Kim Eppehimer, who is the Executive Director of Friendship House, and a leading light behind Code Purple, Code Orange. Hopefully we don't need any more codes, but one never knows. And we're delighted that Kim and Stacey Henry are here with us this evening to share some important information about what is truly life-saving ministry. So, Kim, it's all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sue, and thank you all for inviting me. It's lovely to see you. And yes, I want to talk about Code Orange. So as many of you are aware, Friendship House leads the Code Purple initiative for Newcastle County. And just to share a little bit of how that works, each county of Delaware has its own organization that sort of takes charge of what's called Code Purple. And a Code Purple in Newcastle County is called when the overnight temperatures are 20 degrees or below. Each county, because it's managed by a different organization, will handle that a little bit differently, but that's how we do it here in Newcastle. And so when we call a Code Purple, our faith community bands together, they open up overnight space, and we can bring people in overnight who otherwise might not be able to go to a shelter and would be on the street. And so it is a life-saving program. And we've been doing that for many years, and many of you have been part of that. We are very dependent on volunteers to make that happen. As the temperatures have been rising across the world and clearly across our nation, and therefore in our state, we knew something had to happen also in summer. So since we have this robust Code Purple program, we thought, can we mimic this? And can we do this for the summer? And so we leaned on our faith community once again, and we explained what we wanted to do. And they said, absolutely. And of course, Westminster is right there at the beginning with us. And they also said, we want to be part of this program. So I have a couple of slides just to share to take us through some of the details about what Code Orange is. So Code Orange, again, it is a program that Friendship House has created. So as of right now, no one else in Delaware is doing this, and we're actually doing some research to find out what other states are doing so that we can try to make sure we've thought of all of the different options. It is something that is an indoor, air-conditioned option for folks who are otherwise out on the street. Many shelters that people utilize in order to make sure they have housing overnight will ask for people to leave the shelter during the day. And so it is hard to find options when you are outside when it's poor weather, whether it's snow, rain, or beating down sun. Now, Monday through Friday, Friendship House is open already. We have 5 empowerment centers. Several are in Newcastle County. One is in Kent County in Dover. And so every Monday through Friday, there is a place that people are guaranteed to go. In Wilmington and in Newark, on weekends, those options become a lot fewer, especially since Friendship House is not traditionally open on Sundays and Saturdays. Many businesses, especially with COVID, they have turned their backs to our community in a different way, where they've been much more limiting to allowing people to come in. Now, there are still some places that allow it, but they make it much more difficult. They don't allow bags, for example, or they will require people being a paying customer to access their space. Libraries remain an option, but that still has their own restrictions, and some of them aren't open to the times that they used to be, as far as I'm aware. So that's why we decided we need to do this. And so for us, our Code Orange is active on the weekends. And we call Code Orange when the temperatures are going to exceed, or the feels like temperature exceeds 100, because at that point, it really becomes life-threatening. A lot of people are unaware of some of the difficulties with extreme heat, and it can cause symptoms that people wouldn't always recognize as having severe heat concerns that are going to affect health. So having an option for folks to get in is really, really critical. So as of right now, Code Orange is happening in 2 locations. In Wilmington, it's at our Wilmington Empowerment Center, which is at the St. Andrews and Matthew Episcopal Church, or what we call SAM. So that's where our Wilmington Empowerment Center is. And if we call a code orange on the weekends, that is the location that it will be. And it's held 11 to 4. Technically on Sundays, we open at noon because church services are still going. And so the church is technically open because people are more than welcome to come. Every church allows people to come into their services. So we won't be open until noon, but the church will be open. And then in Newark, we're partnering with Calvary Baptist Church to be our weekend space. They are just a couple steps away from our Newark Empowerment Center right on Main Street. They've been a very, very, very active partner with our Newark Empowerment Center since the beginning. And so they've agreed to open their space on the weekends as well. We make the decision for Code Orange again based on the feels like temperature. So as we were discussing prior to this starting, humidity plays a big role in our feels like temperature, as well as pollutants and air quality. So we can't just rely on the physical temperature. If we did that, then we might miss some really bad days. So we go on the feels like. And if it's at least going to be feels like 100, and we can tell that the day before, then we try to give a 24-hour advance notice to everybody. It's a very open thing for people to come to access our Code Orange. So we have an email network system. We first, a few days before we suspect that we might need to call a Code Orange, we reach out to the faith communities who have already said, we can be your volunteers. And so we reach out to them and we say, we think we're going to have a Code Orange this weekend. Do you have potential volunteers? That way we can line up to make sure that we have people to be there with our staff. And then 24 hours in advance, or in this case, if it's going to be on a Sunday, we might have to call it on a Friday so that we can get the word out to everybody appropriately, especially those that access our programming at the empowerment centers, then we will announce it formally. So we send out our emails, we alert some people in the county authorities who also need to know, and then we post it on our social media sites so that we try to get it as public as we can. So the other aspect of it is, how do we then actually, what do we do at a Code Orange? The Code Orange is really designed purely to be a safe, air-conditioned place for folks. So we will provide ice water, we'll have access to bathrooms, and believe it or not, people always want coffee. It does not matter how hot it is outside. So of course we will provide coffee and tea. But really, it's just a social opportunity for people to be safe. We will have a staff member on site always at every Code Orange, but we don't provide services. So this is not designed to be an extension of our empowerment centers that we normally would do Monday through Friday, but it is just meant to be a life-saving initiative for people to get off the streets. We do not require referrals. And there's many reasons, but mostly because this is a life-saving thing. But also, this is completely funded by Friendship House and our community donations. So this is not something that we've partnered directly with our government. They're not funding this. So we're pretty much calling all the shots on this right now. And we do not require there be referrals. That means that people can literally just walk up and they will be allowed to enter in. Once they come in, we will ask their name so we can record who's visiting and we can track numbers, but we don't do any intake and we don't sit down and ask any questions. Just come and be with us. And again, just a reminder, we're doing it weekends because we are open Monday through Friday. So we already are covering that. And we really do want to make sure the word gets out. Some of you might be used to how we do Code Purple, and for various reasons, we don't always publicize our Code Purple location because we do more than one, and we're trying to centralize those locations for the people in that community to access the closest Code Purple to them. So we do require that they pre-register, and then we ensure they know where they're going that night. With the Code Orange, it's very different. We want the locations to be very public. We want people to get to these. We have plenty of space and the access points are fewer, so we want people to know where they are. And as I had mentioned, this is completely led by Friendship House. So we are happy to accept monetary donations for this initiative. This was not something that we had budgeted this year. This is literally something that we decided to do back in about March or April. We knew we needed to do something. We started putting the wheels in motion. We do have extra supplies that we're looking to gain, such as additional cups and, of course, paper towels and basic things like that. And our folks always need access to plastic bags. That is a common ask of theirs. And then finally, just you guys know how to reach me, but I always like to share, how to get a hold of me if you have questions, or Friendship House. And we do have a helpline number. So one of the easiest, quickest ways for somebody to get hold of Friendship House who's looking for assistance is through our helpline. It does take 24 to 48 hours for us to call them back. So if they're looking for Code Orange information, they really should call our office. But if they're looking for services, they're not sure where to begin, our helpline is always the best way for that. So that is essentially the information I have about Code Orange, and I'm happy to take any questions you have about this. I will share one more thing, that Westminster does have a Code Orange team who have said we are interested in being volunteers. And I believe, Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, but Sandy King, who is our board member, she represents Westminster on the Friendship House board, is the one to reach out to if you're interested in being part of that or learning more about how to be a Westminster Code Orange volunteer.
She is the Westminster coordinator, Kim. So Sandy King
Perfect.
would be the individual. Yes.
Good. Does anybody have any questions about Code Orange, what we're doing, why we're doing, how we're doing it?
What would a volunteer do, Kim?
Very good question. So as is typical for Friendship House's style, is to come hang out with the folks that are accessing our service, right? That's one of the most important things to do. We cannot do what we do without having the volunteers. Our rule of thumb is our staff can never be alone. And we are relatively thinly staffed when you consider how many people we work with every year. In the empowerment centers alone, we work with 4,000 people. And some of our empowerment centers have one staff person. So we always have volunteers to accompany that person, so they're never alone. And so similarly with Code Orange, we're dependent on volunteers, so we don't have to overstaff it. So the most important thing is being there so we can physically open. But then once there, it might be helping to get the coffee ready, or maybe changing over to a fresh pot. But mostly it is just being present to hang out with the folks that access services. If we have a puzzle, if we have a newspaper, or sometimes we have chess games, activities that can be done, we encourage you to take part in that. But being available for conversation is the best thing that you can do.
Kim, do you anticipate, so there are 2 sites in Newcastle County, and do you anticipate that there'll be enough room at those? I guess don't know yet.
Yeah, so we have had plenty of space so far. So in the Wilmington location at SAM, if you're familiar with the Empowerment Center, our center is actually down 1 level, but their parish hall is up 1 level where they kind of do their activities, their coffee hour and things like that. And that is available to us for a Code Orange, and it can hold well over 100 people. So we have done Code Orange several times so far, and we're averaging about 30-ish people so far in Wilmington. The numbers do increase a little bit every time we do a Code Orange, but we're nowhere near the max that we can have there. And similarly in Newark, there aren't as many people who tend to need this kind of service, and we have never hit capacity there as well. I believe we've been about 15 or so people have averaged Code Orange in Newark, and we could easily there as well have 100 people. So we are fine in that realm. But if it ever becomes an issue, then we absolutely would open another location. But even through all of our Code Purple, Sarah, we've never run out of space. That has not been an issue. But that does lead me to say, and then Polly, I'll get to you too. I saw your hand pop up. We are actively working on a Dover code orange. So that's the next thing that's going to happen is we're in conversations on how we can do this in Kent. And there's been some interest in helping us figure this out for Sussex eventually as well. So yeah.
If you have not participated in Code Purple, which is held in the same space at SAM, the weekly word announcement of tonight's program has a photograph of the space at SAM, at least a portion of it, to give you an idea of what it looks like. But it's quite expansive. There's even a stage, I think, at
Yes.
one end of the room. So lots of room.
Yes. Polly, did I see you raise your hand?
Yeah, actually the thing that's, and it may, I apologize, we came in late and so missed the presentation. My understanding that it's only on the weekends, right? I was kind of surprised by that.
Yes, because we're already open Monday through Friday for people to come in for any reason.
okay.
So we don't require appointments for people who need access to our services, although it helps to see a caseworker. But if they need to come in because of heat, then we're already open. So that's why we're doing it on the weekend.
Well,
so that's a really good question. Yes. Yep.
And I guess the second question was, are you, and you may, and I apologize if you addressed this already, are you, if for Code Purple, we'd make sandwiches and that sort of thing. Is that not something we're doing for Code Orange, or is it just haven't gotten to that point yet?
Correct. So we have not instituted that yet. And yet is an important note. I think that is something that we would consider. We have been very fortunate that we have gotten a lot of go bags over the past several months. A go bag for us is something that it's pretty much a small meal to go, and it's non-perishable, does not require any heating, and it's all easy to open items. And we have enough of those that's kind of carrying us through. We've also had some donations from like Panera Bread and some Dunkin' Donuts that we've been having extras of that we've been using for this as well. But the moment that starts to thin out, then our next call will be peanut butter and jelly, which everybody is an expert at this point on making, or other food as is appropriate. So that is not a need yet, but it very likely could be, especially if the heat hangs on into September.
Yeah.
So our first thought was this is a July and August need. But we could very easily have a couple of very hot days in September. So we'll do this as long as we need to. Code Orange, just like Code Purple, doesn't really have a beginning and an end. It's the temperatures that dictate when it happens.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Kim, one other thing, how do the people who might need the service, how do they know about it?
Yes, that is one of the more complicated pieces. A lot of it is word of mouth. We try to make sure that as many partners of ours are aware, and we are working on that distribution list to make sure that the people that need to know who can tell other people are aware. We do rely on social media, as many of the people who access our services are aware, and they can also follow. They're used to that too. But one of our goals is to make sure that we call a Code Orange in time to let the folks that at least are coming to our centers know. So for example, in Wilmington, the biggest influx of people is in the morning, because as they leave the shelter, they come straight to us to get coffee, or they know that we're open at 7 in the morning, they're leaving their tent. And so between 7 and 8 on a Friday morning is when we try to make that call so we can announce it to them. And then Newark will be open in the afternoons, and they're easier to catch. But letting people know who can spread the word is really important. But it's quite amazing. The folks who are unhoused that are in the shelter or living on the street really build quite a community amongst themselves. And when they know somebody needs a service, they grab them along. Like, I'm going to go to this, you need to come with me, or come check this out. So word does spread, and that's usually the quickest way that we see an influx of people.
Thank you.
But if you have any ideas, or if you want to check to see, hey, is so-and-so on your list? They're an organization, or they are in the community and they should know, please let me know, and we'll make sure that they get added to our list.
How does Code Purple work in that regard, Kim? Over the years, I never did quite understand how were the folks kind of encouraged to come in the cold?
Yep, it was the exact same thing. A lot of it was word of mouth and announcing it to the right people at the right time to make sure that they know. What's really interesting with Code Purple, and I suspect this is going to happen with Code Orange as well, and one of the reasons we like it to be in the same location as much as possible is people who don't always have ways of knowing will come by and see if we're open. So for example, if it could be a Code Purple night, but it's not, maybe it's 25 or it's 30 degrees and they think it might be cold enough, they're going to come by and try the door and see if we're open. And we'll usually put a sign, no Code Purple, if you know, that's not uncommon. So I suspect we're going to get that too. So on a weekend, on a Saturday, they're not sure. Let me go try my luck. Let me go see if Friendship House is open. And then either they are or we are not. So there's various ways in which they find out. But a lot of it really is word of mouth.
Well, thank you, Kim, for
Yes.
that description and for the idea behind this. I find myself just walking to or from my car thinking, what do people do who don't have air conditioning, let alone people who don't have housing? So clearly, it is a critically important ministry and outreach, and we are delighted to be a part of it and are most appreciative of
Yes.
Friendship House's leadership in this. Kim, do you want to introduce Stacey? And we'd
Yes.
love to hear from her about the Resiliency Hub and other activities that are underway.
Absolutely. If you all haven't had a chance to meet Stacey, I am just thrilled that you are here to do so. Stacey is just one of my favorite people. She's doing amazing things for the community, and all of it is through volunteerism. She finds herself in places she never thought she would be, and then all of a sudden she's saving lives. So she's an amazing individual, and she has created what she is calling the Resilience Hub. And so I will let her tell you all about it. But I think it's a wonderful thing, and she's a great partner to Friendship House. So Stacey, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. You're my favorite person also. Thanks for allowing me to speak this evening. And I am really honored to be able to share the work that we're doing in the community and the Resilience Hub, which was kind of an accident from Hurricane Ida. There was the flood that happened in Northeast back in September 2nd of 21, and there was a lot that didn't happen for people who were affected by the flood. I started working with them, just boots on the ground, hearing the needs, and actually reaching out to Kim for some of the resources that she had with Friendship House. And it just went on for months, trying to make sure people were housed properly, they had food, clothes, shelter, and just to rebuild from losing, in some cases, everything. And then later, the following year, May, there were 60 people that were evacuated from some apartment buildings in Wilmington with no notice. They just came home and there was notes on their door, you have to get out because the building's being condemned. No resources, no plan, no shelter, no food, no clothing. Similar to Ida, but not because of a storm, but just because of some mismanagement of some property where people were just literally put out on the street. So time and time went by trying to help understand the emergency management process here in our city. And it just didn't happen. So I met with several groups of people in the areas that were affected by these two disasters. And we worked with a team of volunteers and leaders, plenty of training. I went to other cities and I watched and learned how they handle their disasters. And something called Resilience Hub is actually a thing across the United States. There are hubs that are put together in communities, and 90% of them are led by the community, not by the government. And here in Delaware, our hub is led by the community members. We started out doing workshops to educate community members about preparedness, disaster preparedness, what to do in a disaster, how to handle situations, who do you call? We did CPR classes. We did classes to show them and teach them how to figure out their evacuation route if they ever had to evacuate their home. We dealt with food disparities, and when the weather started to get warm, we trained on cooling stations and teaching residents about hydrating foods and leaving your home when it's very hot, what you need to drink, what you need to take with you. And if you don't have those things, educating them on, instead of eating fried chicken, maybe you want a cold cut sandwich when you're going out and you know you're going to be out in the heat, which was a partnership also with Food Bank, Delaware Food Bank. So we dealt with food disparities during the heat. Beat the heat is what we called it. And then we decided on cooling stations, like different places around the city, understanding what Kim is doing in that area and making sure that we could try to be in areas where folks really need to come in out of the heat. So we opened a cooling station in North Wilmington, and it's at a church. We follow the same kind of heat index, supporting what Kim is doing. And our volunteers, the church volunteers, when we call when a code orange is called, we have a network from the city who sends out an alert through their media and through their television stations that they have, giving the location, the time, and where to go. Once upon arrival, we provide them with a light lunch, nutritious hydrating snacks. They can stay as long as they want. We have board games, or we just kind of sit around and talk to them and educate them. We have material on hydrating, how to stay hydrated, signs of, heat stroke, sunburn, and things of that nature. And then on their way out, we give them an ice bottle. It's a water bottle that is frozen with ice and water. So on their trip home or their next destination, wherever they're going, they have something to keep them hydrated until they can get to a cooler place. So our Resilience Hub volunteers just have been phenomenal, because we realize that there are lots of things that will happen for people who are underserved or disadvantaged. And we are first command. When disasters are called, we will show up at the PAL Center, which is the shelter for Wilmington, when there's a big disaster like Hurricane Ida, and we will be on site prepared to help with all of the EMTs or DEMA, whoever's there that's supposed to carry out whatever we need to support the residents of Wilmington. It is a Delaware Resilience Hub. We've received calls as far as Middletown. When there was a tornado, we went down to Middletown, and we've been down as far as Sussex County with other initiatives from the Delaware Resilience Hub. That's kind of like what we do.
That's all you do, right, Stacey? That's all you do?
That's all a lot of our training, it's important for me for a couple of reasons. I am a Red Cross DAC responder, disaster responder. So I get calls out from Red Cross to support disasters and emergencies. And and I take that information and that training and I put it out for the residents so that they too can know how they can be a service. They may not go through the Red Cross training or anything like that, but learning how to do CPR, it could really save a life. So, the CPR class was very, very, it was fun. Residents who thought they could never do it, in 2.5 hours, they received the certificate because they passed the test, and it may be someone in their own house that they have to save a life until emergency help can come. So we look for preparedness opportunities. And that's our monthly commitment to the city of Wilmington and our Delaware Resilience Hub, is we invite the community in on preparedness.
So how can churches like ours, people like us, help?
Well, Kim and I talked about cooling stations a couple months ago, and it's really a coincidence because some of the churches that we were going to ask to do stations, we realized it would be more effective to have the volunteers from the churches, because the hub, the cooling station that we opened in North Wilmington, we have a steady group of about 10 volunteers. So when we call, Code Orange is called, they have committed to, the church members and the hub have committed to that location. So when you say, how can you help? I think us working together, not only with Friendship House, and if we open another hub, communication is key. We're very appreciative that the city of Wilmington has decided they would help us to communicate this information out. But the majority of the population that we're going to help and serve, they're probably not going to look at the communication from the city of Wilmington. So it's word of mouth, it's someone receiving the service and then telling someone else, okay, you need to come over here. Our last cooling station was very rewarding for us, because there were children in this particular area that were just out on their scooters, and I just happened to run into, it was 3 of them, I think, and they were under the age of 10 on scooters, and they went to the store, no money. And they were like, well, we're hungry and we're hot and we need something to drink. And of course, the clerk said, you have to get out of here. You have no money. So my first instinct was to buy them something to drink. But I was like, no, let's tell them about the cooling station. So they came over to the cooling station, stayed a while, cooled off, went back. And then later they came back with 6 more kids who just been out, no summer camp. And we asked, like, do your parents know you're out here like this? And they're like, oh, my mom's at work. So they're just out in the element on scooters, thirsty, tired, and unsupervised. So the other folks that kind of walked in, they just walked in because they saw the sign and they said, hey, it's hot. I'm trying to get to the supermarket, or I'm trying to get down the street to the pharmacist, and I see it's a cooling station. Is this somewhere I can cool off? And we're like, absolutely. So it's non-traditional, but I think what we're trying to do, what Friendship House is trying to do, and what we're trying to do is just be a resource for a person in need and be available. And our days will depend on when the heat waves are called. We don't have specific days that we're open. We're open based on the need. And usually, again, 24-hour notice. And then we have signs that we're on a main quarter on Market Street. So we put signs out and it lets people know cooling station open today from 12 to 5, or what, that's our typical hours, 12 to 5. And folks come in.
Whereabouts on Market Street, Stacey?
It's the 30 it's 3301 North Market Street. It's right next to the Riverview Cemetery.
Mhm.
So there's mainly a lot of foot traffic. I don't know if people drove up in cars because, you know, we weren't outside, we were inside. But I think the majority of the folks that stop by when we're open, it's foot traffic on Market Street or trying to get from one location to another, passing through Market Street.
Do you have a mechanism for communicating about the Resilience Hub? Is there a Facebook page? Is there a website? Is there another source of information?
We had, I'll put it this way, we started out as a project called Northeast Rising, and we developed into a full resilience hub. So as we speak, our whole, the Facebook page and Instagram, Twitter, all of that is changing face and name and connection. So a lot of our previous information that was out was under that project, but we're fully operational now as a program and a hub. We had to, you know, make sure that our trademark or our marketing all resembled what we're doing going forward, because that project ended and we decided as a team we're going to move forward with the hub. So we need to make sure that we're communicating as such.
Sure, that's great. That's great. Go ahead.
I said we're working on it. We're working some faithful volunteers, but we're in the middle of summer. People go on vacation and they have their kids home and things of that nature. But we do anticipate within the next week and maybe next week. We have a logo and everything that was designed, and we're pulling it all together.
All right, well, maybe we'll find some way. Maybe rather than asking you to do something, we'll wait a week or 10 days, whatever, and I'll send you a message and you can let me know where things stand and how we might go about accessing that information. That would be great.
Absolutely. We'll be more than happy to share.
Other questions for Stacey?
Stacey, do you get any funding from the state or county or city?
No. All private people who just hear about our work. We're actually under Brandywine Valley Friends, which is the small nonprofit that I've worked with. I've been around since 1999. This is a new arm of the nonprofit, and we're all volunteers. There's no paid staff, and we receive in-kind as well as we receive contributions through the nonprofit to support the work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Stacey, what's your greatest need? Do you need more locations? Do you need more volunteers at the location that you now have, or?
Well, we have quite a few volunteers for the location that we have now. We are working, because we're part of a national network of resilience hubs. Today we had a training with one of our head resilience hub in Boston, and they were able to incorporate cooling stations through a partnership in their local libraries. So we're working. I've reached out to the libraries, and as Kim said before, you know, they said, well, local, you know, it's common sense, people can come into the library, but the population that we're serving, they don't receive the open arms. You know, there's a bag limit. If you have more than 2 bags, you can't bring your bags in. And sometimes it's not very welcoming for them to come in. So Boston and Texas, you know, they put together a plan, and the plan that they put together, we were working on tonight to share that, because we're going to try to initiate that here in Delaware, where there is a memorandum of understanding, not just saying it's a place that you can come when it's hot, but we want to have a memorandum of understanding that it's really a cooling station, and maybe there's just a designated area that people can come to cool off. Now, if they will agree to that, then we probably will need more volunteers because we would like to go in during those hours, participate with the residents who are trying to cool off, educate them on the warning signs of heat stroke and heat, exhaustion and things of that nature, provide water. Another thing that we have at the cooling station is, we have cooling packs. So we focus on people that may walk in that are just extremely overheated. We don't do any medical or anything like that, because sometimes they may just need an ice pack or some ice to put on the back of their neck just to get themselves together. So we have a whole structure of what we do and what we can't do. And then if we can't help them and they need 911, we would do that. But if we could get our libraries to work with us, the libraries are open, they have plenty of air conditioning. And if they're doing it in other states, we can do it here in Delaware as well. And once that happens, then we'll probably have to definitely recruit volunteers to man those libraries when, a code orange is called.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Kim or for Stacey? For so many of us, we recognize it's hot outside. We complain bitterly when we have to do something out there. We complain about the cost of electricity to run our air conditioning, but we don't have any visceral appreciation for what it is not to be able to cool off. And so we are grateful to Stacey and Kim, to Friendship House and the Resilience Hub for taking on this ministry for people who need just a little cool air, just a little cool water, just a respite from this merciless heat. So please keep, certainly Westminster, and through us and through our contact, the other people who attend these programs, keep us in mind. You know how to reach us. You can ask for whatever help we might be able to provide, and we would be grateful for the opportunity to make a difference. And we are most appreciative, Stacey and Kim, of your personal and organizational commitment to our fellow human beings. And Stacey, we will keep you in our prayers as you recover from the loss caused by the fire in your home, and pray that you receive the kind of assistance and help that you so generously offer to others.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Stay cool. Let's see. Mike, do you want to say a word or two about our program next week?
Sure. So next week we have the opportunity to speak with an organization called New Start, which me and Lynn Kilhorn months ago, back I think in March, there was a group of ex-convicts, to put it that way, who talked about the necessities that they have and things like that. And this smart group, this New Start group, is going to be I'm trying to think of the title here, but she will be in attendance. The president of the organization is going to be speaking on what they've been able to provide to kind of re-entry some of these prospects. And the important thing is that the organization, when you look at some of the organizations that try to support ex-cons who are trying to re-entry, their percentage of finding them opportunities as well as jobs and things like that are probably one of the highest in the state. So we're looking forward to that presentation next week. I think you'll all will be very interested in not only what they're doing, but maybe how we can help them as well.
The organization has had some wonderful successes, probably limited only by the number of people that they can reach and work with. And so there may be opportunities for expanding that. But appreciation to Mike for bringing next week's speaker. And I think you will all be interested in and intrigued by, supportive of the work being done to help returning citizens find a place in the community and be able to restart productive relationships and lives through the work of the Project New Start. So we'll hope to see you here again next Thursday. In the meantime, stay cool, be safe, and we'll hope to see you next week.
Thank
Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Mike.
much.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Sue.
Take care,
Good
everyone.
night.